I led them with cords of kindness, with the bands of love. And I became to them as one who eases the yoke on their jaws, and I bent down to them and fed them.
Shalom, shalom. It's Brother Tyndall from Something to Chew On, coming in once again to do a read-along update and hopefully give you something to chew on. This week, I don't really have anything planned. I'm just simply going to talk about some things, some posts I've seen this week on Facebook and other social medias, and just point out some things and give some pieces to a greater puzzle, if that makes any sense. Let's do this read along update. Stick around. It'll be worth your time. Let's do this read along update. Get that out of the way, and then we'll get into this. Okay. Last week, the vote on hand was between 2nd Chronicles and 1st Corinthians. And 1st Corinthians 1. So, that's going to be the one I work on. I haven't done any of those yet. I had a very busy week, and I haven't done any of those. I know past couple of weeks, I noticed who was going to win, and I went ahead and sat down like on Friday night and made them. Well, I wasn't able to do that this week. So I'll have to work on them in between now and next week. And as usual, most high willing, I'll get them made, and hopefully I'll get them uploaded on Wednesday like I've been doing. Maybe not, though. We'll see. But, like I say, most high willing, they'll be uploaded. 1st Corinthians playlist will be made and uploaded to YouTube by next Sabbath. The one that won last week was Esther. I got that one uploaded. And the link to that one will be in the description below. Okay. With that said, the vote this week, I'm going to leave 2nd Chronicles on the table. That's one of the... I've still got a few books from the Tanakh or the Old Testament to actually make, but the majority of them are short books, like the Minor Prophets. They're short, they won't take any time at all. The two big ones that I still have to make are 2nd Chronicles, hence why I'm putting it back on the table, and the book of Job. I'm not going to put that one on the table, just saying that those are the two large books of the Tanakh that I haven't made yet. Okay, but with that said, excuse me, 2nd Chronicles or the prophet Micah. That's the vote this week. So pause the video and go down and vote in the comment section below. Okay, like I say, 2nd Chronicles or Micah. Alright? Okay, that's that. That's the update. Now, to this week, like I said, I don't really... I'm gonna just talk. I'm gonna just talk to you, all you viewers, subscribers, whatever. A lot of times I will either, through the week, look into something, study into something, kind of wrap my mind around something that I'm going to present. And I just present it. And I don't normally, for those who've been watched any of my videos or seen any of my stuff, you know that I don't use a script. I know a lot of people out there, they'll write down word for word what they're going to say, and they'll just read off a script. I don't do that. When I first started speaking in front of people, I did. I would write it out completely verbatim and just read what I wanted. I don't do that anymore. I simply just start talking about a subject that I've looked into. This week, I'm not saying I haven't looked into this, I just don't have like an outline of what I'm going to talk about. So, with that said, this may be a bit discombobulated, if that makes any sense. I'm gonna just present some quote unquote puzzle pieces to the greater jigsaw puzzle. And these things, a lot of this is going to deal with just things I see that people, whether they were directly or indirectly taught these things, or whether they have just assumed these things to be truth. And it becomes part of, how do we say this? A building block in their biblical, theological worldview, however you want to label it. But there's these pieces people have that affects the way they interpret the scriptures. And some of it is due to they were taught wrong. Now, was it done on purpose? Most likely not. And some people, they weren't directly taught it, but they just kind of assume these things and they run with it. And it affects the way they see the text. It becomes, for those who watch my videos, you know I talk about filters. Filters. What we're taught and all this acts as filters. And what a filter does, you put a filter over your eyes, what it does is remove what you don't want. We can't read the text through filters, whether it be denominational filter, doctrine of man filter, the same thing, just labeled two different ways. You see what I'm saying? We can't interpret and or read the text, the scripture, through a filter, because a filter removes things we don't want to see, don't want to hear, right? Like an air filter, it removes particles that you don't want to breathe. Anyway, but yeah. We're supposed to read scripture through a lens, which will bring it into clear and sharp focus so we can see what the text actually says. Like, yeah, I've heard me say this 1,000 times. Not what we've been taught it says, not what we think it says, not what we believe it says, not what we have wrongly come to understand that it says, and most definitely not what our flesh wants to twist it into saying, but simply read it for what it says. Now, granted, there are some things in the scriptures that, how do we say it? You have to have a bit of discernment. And I say this in all nicety, but there's a lot of people lacking discernment. It's because they don't read their scriptures. They rely on what somebody tells them, or they don't simply read what it says. And there are things that, how do I say this? The text doesn't just come out and say these things, but you have to take pieces of the text and kind of put it all together and have some discernment and pray and let the Ruach reveal these things to you. Do you see? Does that make sense? Okay. With all that said, the first thing I'm going to say doesn't really fall into this category. It's just kind of a rant, if you will, about a post I seen. Here, I've already got this brought up, so let me go ahead and get all this ready. Okay, I'll say this. The first point is going to be brief. The rest of the stuff, I might talk for a little bit. Y'all know me, I can talk. But this first thing, I remember a while back, I don't know, 6 months, a year ago, I don't really remember. It doesn't really matter how long ago it was. I had someone tell me, I said Yah, as in short for Yahweh, Yahuwah, Jehovah, however you want to pronounce it. Y'all know me, I don't get dogmatic on how it's pronounced. It's not Lord, it's Yod He Vav He. However you want to pronounce that, fine by me. But most often, I'll just say, honestly, I most often say the Most High. And everybody knows who I'm talking about. Why? Because I don't want to get into arguments about the name and it's this name, it's that name. Does it matter if we say it the right way? I don't get into all that. I'm not one of those people. But every now and then I will say Yah. I'll just say Yah. And when I read the text, I just say Yod He Vav He, right? Because that's the letters. But like I said, I don't know, 6 months, a year ago, whatever it was, I said Yah. And I had somebody tell me, they said, you can't say that. I'm like, what? And I'm like, why can't I say that? And this was their reason. They said, Yah can only be used in poetry. It's a poetical form. Okay, I'll agree with you. It's a poetical form. I get that. I see where they're coming from, and I'll give you that much. Yeah, sure. It's a shortened form of the name, poetical form, meaning it's actually in the text. But what's that got to do with not being able to say it? Okay. Now, like I said, that was 6 months, a year ago, whatever. And I just duck water back. I just let that one roll off my back. I was like, that doesn't even make sense to me, especially because it's in the text. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you in the text where it is. It's, depending on what translation you read, I've seen it. I want to say once, twice, maybe 3 times, but there's one place I know that Yah is actually in the text, right? Or it's translated into our English. In the Hebrew, it starts with a bet because it's the prefix before Yah, and it makes a word. You see what I'm saying? But it's saying Yah. It's not saying Yod He Vav He. It's saying Yah. But anyway, I'll show you where it's at because this leads into the other thing that I seen recently about this, and I was like, But here, let me just pull it up. It's Psalms 68 and verse 4, and I'm gonna pull it up in the King James. And for those who know, y'all already know there is no J in the Hebrew language. So Jehovah, no, Yehovah. It's a Y. Whether it be Jah, it's not Yahweh, it's Yahweh. It's not Yahuwah, it's Yahuwah. It's not Jehovah, it's Yehovah. However you want to pronounce it, but it's not a J sound, it's a Y. It's just like people saying Jesus. I have no problem with people saying Jesus, but it's a Y sound. It's Yeshua, Yahushua, Yehoshua. However you want to say it, but it's not Jesus. Now, like I said, I don't have a problem with people saying Jesus, but the thing is, there's no J in the Hebrew language. In fact, the J wasn't invented until like 500 years ago. You see what I'm saying? Even in the original King James, it was not Jesus, it was an I. But like I said, I don't get dogmatic about this. But I simply say all that because the King James, I'm going to show you in the King James, and it says Jah with a J. But we know it's not J. We know it's Yay, or Y. Or actually Yod. So it would be Yah, right? But I'm going to show you in the text where that is. Most of you already know. Like I said, Psalm 68:4 here. I'm going to just bring it up and show you. I got it highlighted right here. It says, sing unto, this is the King James, and I'm going to read what it says. Sing unto God, or Elohim, sing praises to his name, extol him that rideth upon the heavens by his name, Yah. Jah has here, but it's Yah. I rejoice before him. Now, the guy, like I said, 6 months, years ago, he was like, you can't say that. That's poetic form. Okay, I'll give you it's poetical. I'll give you it's a poetical shortening of the Tetragrammaton. However you want to pronounce it, it's a shortening of it. But where do you get we can't say it? Somebody wrote it down right there. And weren't the Psalms songs meant to be sung? Well, you don't sing something in your head, you sing out loud. So when they sung this, they had to say Yah out loud. So they said it. Okay, with that said, we saw it. It's Yah. It's right there in the text. But I seen a post today, actually. And the person said, she asked a question. And her question was basically, do you find it disrespectful to say Yah instead of, and she used one of the, I ain't going to get into which one, but Jehovah, Yahweh, Yahuwah, whatever. She used one of those. She said, don't you find it disrespectful to say Yah instead of this? But basically, that's what she said. And I'm thinking, how is that disrespectful? And I scrolled through the comments. At the time, there was like 56 comments, I think. And I scrolled through and I read the majority of them. Y'all know me. I don't like, I don't share, I don't comment on a lot of stuff. But I read a whole lot of stuff. And I read through these comments. And somebody brought up this verse. And was like, it's in the text, so, stop being a legalist. That was his reply. I'm like, well, maybe he shouldn't. I see where he's coming from. Maybe he shouldn't have responded so harshly, but I get it. But basically, after reading like people who were commenting, she was coming back. This person, I done said it now. It doesn't matter though, because I'm not going to tell you the name. She come back and she said, Yah is the name of an Egyptian god. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. I never heard of an Egyptian god called Yah. But she shared some links and she had a couple of memes, and I mean that doesn't make it authoritative truth just because she got a meme that says Yah is the name of an Egyptian god. That don't make it a fact. But I was thinking, well, so what? I mean, this whole mindset goes back to the video I made a while, 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was titled Trigger Warning. The names of other mighty ones or other gods. And people have this idea that we're not supposed to say the names of other gods. But yet the Torah tells us, I'm sorry. I am sorry. But the Torah, it never fails. Every time I go to make a video, my dogs start barking. It never fails. Maybe I need to do an exorcism on them or something. Cast out the demons or something. I don't know. That's a joke. But the video I did is called Trigger Warning, the names of other mighty ones or other gods. And people use that verse, what is it? Exodus 23:13, I believe, that says you're not supposed to speak the names of other gods. Well, if that's the case, like I said in that video, the Torah actually commands us to every 7 years read the Torah out loud. And there are names of other gods within the Torah. Chemos, Molech, and Baal. So if we're not supposed to pronounce those names, then how are we supposed to read the Torah? Go back and watch the video and I talk about it. But it's logical fallacy. These people get caught up in a logical fallacy, and you can't say Yah because that's the name of a false Egyptian god. Well, it's in the text. It's in the Hebrew text, so I don't think there's an issue with me saying that. Maybe y'all feel different. Maybe you agree with me. I don't know. I'm just, like I said, I'm just talking. It's a rant. Some of this stuff drives me around. False cognate. Does people know what a false? I'm not saying this is a false cognate, but do people actually know what a false cognate is? If you don't know what that is, go look it up. I highly suggest you go look it up and wrap your mind around the concept of a false cognate. Okay? Okay, now with that said, I'm gonna get to the actual meat. This is what I actually want to talk about right here. That was just something that I seen earlier, and I was like, "What? Disrespectful to say Yah?" I'm like, okay, and then it's an Egyptian god. I'm like, well, anyway, let me expand on that for a second so you'll understand where I'm coming from. In case you don't quite wrap your mind around what I'm trying to say, let me see if I can explain this a little bit better. Yah is in the text. Therefore, there should be no problem in saying it. But to say it's disrespectful because Yah is the name of an Egyptian god, the two don't have any connection. I'm not saying the word Yah in the Bible has no connection with an Egyptian. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the two thoughts, those two ideas, don't mesh. It's like logical fallacy. They have nothing to do with each other. Just because there's an Egyptian god named Yah, how does that equate to it being disrespectful in saying Yah to refer to the Most High? You see what I'm saying? Egyptian god named Yah has nothing to do with saying Yah in reference to the Most High. It doesn't make it disrespectful because there's an Egyptian god. You see what I'm saying? Now, if you want to use the argument, well, you can't say Yah because that's the name of a false god. Well, I already explained that one to you also. That's a logical fallacy also. The Torah doesn't tell us that. It's like I was saying, pieces of the Torah, people like discernment. They focus in on one thing and they don't read and take into consideration what else is being said. And with that, let's go to the next topic. Okay, let me put my glasses on. I seen this post. I'm going to say this post. I seen this verse. Here, let me go ahead and pull this up on my computer. That way, when I transition over, it'll already be there. And we can look at this. I seen this. Okay. I seen this verse posted 3 separate times this week by three different people. I don't know if they know each other or not. And it wasn't the same. It wasn't like it was a meme that they were sharing, and it wasn't. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't the same meme shared by 3 people. It was 3 separate people sharing this verse, and they all equate it to. They read into. A lot of people are going to disagree with me, but I'm going to show you. This is the point of read what the text says. This is one of those examples of let's read what it says, not what we've been told it says, not what we think it says, not what we come to believe it says. Let's simply read what the text says. Okay? But people have, for some reason, and I used to be this until I sat down and I read this, and I'm like, that's not what this says. This has nothing to do with what most people think this says. Right? Let's just read this. Hence why I posted the Torah trivia question this morning. For those who Torah trivia, it's a group in Facebook. I simply post a question every day about most often the Torah or the Tanakh. Sometimes a Brit Hadashah question, but most of the time it's simply from the Old Testament, the Tanakh. And they're easy questions, nothing hard, nothing deep, nothing theological. It's simply meant. The purpose of it is not to cause arguments, not to cause you to go write an essay. It's simply to cause you to have to go look into the text and find the verse that answers my question. Does that make sense? A lot of times there's no ulterior motive. It's simple. How many stones did David pick up when he fought Goliath? Go look in the text and find a verse. Most people will say, oh, that was 5. Well, that's great. Tell me where in the text it is. That's the point, to make you go look to find the actual scripture reference, the address where the answer can be found. It's not about you getting the correct answer. It's about making you go look in your Bible, making you go read your Bible. That's the point of this group, and so many miss that. But anyway, I asked the question this morning. Let me bring this up, and I'll read this to you. The question, and most people are going to know off the top of their head the answer. Now, they may not know exactly where in the text the answer is. They'll know in a general sense. A lot of people know that. Oh man, come on! A lot of people know this scripture. This is the question I asked, though. I said, about whom was this statement made? Quote, I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. End quote. And I ask, who is that statement made about? Because so many people, and like I said, I used to be one of these people. So many people will apply that to modern day, the modern day Middle Eastern geopolitical nation of Israel. Let's think about that for a second. Right? But who is the text talking about? Let's go back and actually read what it says. And like I said, I'm going to pull this up in the King James. I'm going to read it verbatim, what it says from the King James. All right? So let's bring this back up. It's Genesis chapter 12. It's starting at verse 1. But the verse in question is Genesis 12:3. But let's pull this up and we'll look at this. Like I said, Genesis chapter 12, start at verse 1 from the King James Version. It says this, Now the Lord, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. Not shew thee, that's show. That's a King Jamesism. Genesis 12:2, and I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. Verse 3, the verse in question, and I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. Okay. The Lord said to Abram, right there in the first verse. And then third verse, the Lord speaking. Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh speaking. I will bless them that bless thee. Okay, who is the thee referring to? Who is the antecedent in this verse? The antecedent, that's your grammatical word for the day. If you don't know what it means, go look it up. It basically means when you use a pronoun, what does that pronoun refer back to? The antecedent. So many people want to make this be, those who bless Israel I will bless, and those who curse Israel I will curse. But is that what the text is saying? No. The text is saying those who bless Abram, the Most High will bless. And those who curse Abram, the Most High will curse. Do we catch that? Now, before anybody, your flesh starts reacting, I'm not saying we are to bless, and or I am not saying, wait a minute, let me rephrase that so there's no confusion. I am not saying that we should or should not bless and or curse the modern nation state of Israel. Leave that out of this. That's not what I'm talking about. Why? Because that's not what this is about. So don't try to read into what I'm saying some anti-Semitic, anti-Zionist rhetoric. That's not what I'm saying. I'm simply asking, pointing out that this text in Genesis 12 is not referring to the modern state of Israel. First and foremost, it didn't exist when this was written. Secondly, the person Israel hadn't even been born yet. This is about Abram. The Most High will bless those who bless Abram, and he will curse those who curse Abram. But so many have, like I said, whether directly or indirectly, been taught, and therefore they have come to wrongly believe that that's what this verse is saying. That's a filter. That's not what this verse says. This verse says it's talking about Abram, blessing and cursing Abram. Let's not try to retrograde, meaning read back our 21st century understanding of something back into the text. Let's not retrograde things back into the text to try to make the text say what we want it to say. Let's simply read it for what it says. Does that make sense? This is a perfect example. I used to think, I got to bless Israel, so I'll be blessed. Okay, that's great, but that's not what this is talking about. That is not what this text says. But so many want to make it say that. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't, help Israel. I'm not saying we should either. Remember, this has nothing to do with Israel, so don't read that into it. This is talking about Abram. We catch that. Just chew on that for a little while. Okay, now, with that said, you can agree, you can disagree. Hey, if you disagree with me, put something in the comments below. Prove me wrong. Because I don't see it. Like I said, I used to think that's what this verse was talking about until I sat down and actually read what it says. And it doesn't say anything about Israel. It says, I will make of thee a great nation. Okay? But it's talking about blessing Abraham, not the nation. And people, they get confused with that. It's like their grammar skills go, their logic and their grammar skills go out the window when they read the Bible. That's a whole nother topic. But you see what I'm saying? Okay, now, with that said, people wanting to retrograde. That's the word, retrograde. They want to retrograde something back into the text to try to make the text agree with what they want it to. The text doesn't say that. Don't stop retrograding things back into the text. Now, that leads into my next point. Oh, before I go any further. Yeah, that leads in, let's see. Like I said, I'm just kind of, I don't have this in any kind of logical order. Hopefully, I'm going to try to weave this together and make it fit as I go. This is talking about Abram. Abraham, before his name was changed, same person, Abraham, same person. Same physical person, name was changed. But it's not talking about Israel. It's most certainly not talking about the Jews. Now, before anybody, starts screaming anti-Semitism, just hear it out. Hear out what I got to say. There are some, we'll put it that way. There are some that, like I say, retrograde. They want to retrograde a term back into the text and try to apply it to something that it does not apply to. This is an example. Abram. You will often hear people say, Abram or Abraham, let's just say Abraham. Most of us know Abraham. You will often hear some people say that Abraham was Jewish. Was he? Was he actually Jewish? Let's see what the text itself says. Okay? Now, like I said, let's not assume, let's not read into it what we think it says. Let's read what the text actually says. And many of you already know this. But if we go forward 2 chapters to Genesis chapter 14 and verse 13. Let's pull out, and this is in the King James also. I'm going to transition. We can read this, okay? Right there highlighted. Genesis chapter 14 and verse 13. It says this, and there came one that had escaped and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plains of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and the brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abram. What does that say here, right here? And told Abram the Hebrew. Now, like I said, let's not read into the text what we think it says. Let's not assume, because I know some people, like I said, some people have been directly and or indirectly taught certain things, and they come to believe certain things. And there are some that will say Abram was a Jew. And all this I'm trying to say this is nice. All this fallacy that people, whether they teach it indirectly or directly, or people just assume, and then you have some that actually say, yeah, Abram was a Jew. All this kind of melds together, and there's so many people out there that Abram was a Jew. And then they'll want to say, well, yeah, see, it says he was Hebrew. He was Jew, man. He was a Jew. He was Hebrew. No, it does not say he was a Jew. It says he was Hebrew. Now, with that said, one has to ask themselves, is there a difference? We can't assume they're the same thing. We can't assume because Abram was a Hebrew, oh yeah, that means he was Jewish. That's not what the text says. The text says he was a Hebrew. Do you see where I'm going? People, like I said, some will say Abraham was a Jew. Some will teach it, whether directly or indirectly. But you have so many people who just assume and pick up on this false idea and run with it. Abraham was a Jew. But the text does not say that. The text says he was Hebrew. Now, I know there's somebody going, well, that's the same thing. Is it? Is it really the same thing? Something to chew on. Go dig into that. You see what I'm saying? People just, stop and think. Have a modicum of discernment and ask yourself, is a Jew and a Hebrew the same thing? Maybe they are, maybe they're not. Just don't assume they are, because there are so many out there that do. But just because somebody believes it does not make it true. Go dig into the text and see if a Hebrew and a Jew are the same thing. Something to chew on. Now, on that thought, let's go look at something else. With this whole, what is a Jew idea? I so often hear, and I know a lot of you do, a lot of you hear this, and there may be some watching this that would fall into this camp that, quote unquote, the law was given to the Jews. They have that belief. Now, I know most of the people watching this understand that the law was not given to the Jews. But there might be somebody out there who still holds on to that false idea that the law was given to the Jews. The Torah was given to the Jews. Because a lot of people have that idea. And they, just hear me out. If you're one of these that, yeah, the law was given to you, if you're one of those, just hear me out. Hear me out. Suppress your cognitive dissonance and just hear out what I gotta say. And then go test it to the scriptures. Go look in the scriptures and see if it bears it out. It's pieces of a puzzle, okay? People have this idea that the law was given to the Jews. Therefore, me speaking, okay, I'm going to pretend to be one of these people who believe that the law was given to the Jews, okay? That's the perspective I'm speaking from. Yeah, the law was given to the Jews. Therefore, that law was for the Jews, and I am a Gentile. Therefore, that law don't apply to me. I don't have to do that. I'm a Gentile, and that was for the Jews. I don't have to do none of that stuff. That was for the Jews. I'm a Gentile. Really? Is that what the text says? Go dig into that. And it streams from it comes from the base misunderstanding of not knowing what a Jew is. And like I said, people like to retrograde this term Jew back. And this is an example of one of the things that people like to retrograde back into the text where the text doesn't actually say that. Genesis 14:13, Abraham was a Jew. No, the text says he was a Hebrew, but people want to retrograde this idea that he was a Jew back into the text. That's not what the text says. You see what I'm saying? But this whole idea that the law was for the Jews, was given to the Jews, it applies only to the Jews. Well, what actually is a Jew? Okay? But before we answer that, attempt to answer that question, let's go somewhere. Many of y'all have heard teachings along this lines. Y'all understand this. You wrapped your mind around it. But there's somebody, I'm sure, that hasn't. And like I say, their cognitive dissonance is kicking in. But like I said, don't let your flesh rear its ugly head. Just hear what I got to say. And let's see. Let's just see. First and foremost, I'm going to say this. I believe that the Torah has always been. It was simply given to and written down by Moses. We all know that. The Most High gave Moses the law. Right? I mean, we can see that. I'll give you verses. I'm going to show you in the text where it says these things. Exodus 24:12. Let's just look at King James again. I'm going to just read what it says. Exodus chapter 24 and verse 12. What does it say right here? It says, and the Lord, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, said unto Moses, come up to me into the mount, and be there, and I will give thee tables of stone, and a law, that's Torah in Hebrew, and commandments which I have written, that thou mayest teach them. So, like I said, I believe the law always was. It was simply given to Moses, and he put pen to paper. And that says, which I have written. I get that. finger of God written on stone. I get all that. But the Torah as a whole. See what I'm saying? Moses put pen to the paper. But it was given to him by the Most High. But my point is this. The Most High gave the Torah to Moses. If you want to get technical and specific about it, it was given to Moses. It wasn't given to the Jews. It wasn't given to Israel. It wasn't given to anybody but Moses. Now, some of y'all are going, what? Think about it. That's what it says. I mean, it says that. It even says in, I would suggest going to read Deuteronomy chapter 30 all the way through 33. And you see this concept. The Torah itself what I'm getting at is it was specifically handed from the Most High directly to Moses. So technically, it was Moses. It wasn't the Jews, it wasn't Israel, it wasn't nobody else. It was Moses. I'm going somewhere with this. Now, what did Moses do? What was he commanded by the Most High to do with it? He was to teach it. He was to disseminate it, if you will, to the children of Israel. Not the Jews. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Back up. Like I said, technically, the Torah, the law, the instructions of the Most High were given by the Most High to Moses. Okay? Now, for those who don't know, Moses was not a Jew either. Just as Abram was not a Jew, neither was Moses. Moses was an Hebrew. But he was also a Levite. Because Abram was a Hebrew. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, down the line. Jacob's name was changed to Israel. The 12 sons of Jacob became the 12 tribes. And all those 12 tribes are the children of Israel, the children of Jacob. Do we see that? So you have 12 tribes: Ephraim, Manasseh, Gad, Dan, Judah, Benjamin, all the different tribes. I'm not going to name them all. Judah is one of those tribes. Right? Gad is one of those tribes. Now, with that thought in mind, go look up in your text, just puzzle pieces. Go look them up. Think about this. Go look up like Benjamite, Gadite, Danite. What's some other? Simeonite. That one's in there. Ephraimite. These tribal distinctions are in there. You see what I'm saying? All right. But here's where I'm going. I'm going to show you this. Now, let's see. Which verse do I go to first? Let me see. Like I said, I ain't sit down in logical order, try to lay this out. I'm kind of just scattershot here. So give me a second. Let me see. That ain't right. Uh-oh. I wrote my address down wrong. Let's see. Oh, my bad. I'm looking in the wrong book. That's why I didn't. I was like, that address doesn't exist. What am I looking for? 26. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I'm going to show you a verse right here. And depending on, some people have different beliefs, right? We're not going to get into the argument of this and this. Something you can go look into yourself. During the time of the Old Testament, especially this, it's a patriarchal society. Meaning, it's what, like I said, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, patriarchal. Went from father to son, father to son, father to son. Okay, now today in certain circles, lineage is passed down through the matriarchal side, the mother's side, as opposed to the father's side. That's not where I'm going with this. Okay? So if you try to use that as an argument to refute what I'm about to show you, that's not, you're arguing against a point I am not making. Okay? Before we look at this text, I'm going to show you this, because I know some people have this idea of maternal lineage and or paternal lineage. Does that make sense? That's not the point I'm making here. So don't get confused by the trees. That's not the point. But let's look at this. If you go to Numbers chapter 26 and verse 59. Hang on. Yeah, here we go. Right here. It says, and the name of Amram's wife was Jochebed. I can't pronounce these names. I apologize. The daughter of Levi, whom her mother bare to Levi in Egypt, and she bare unto Abram Aaron, Moses, and Miriam their sister. Okay, now what I'm pointing out here, I'm not getting into maternal line, paternal line. That's not the point. The point is that Aaron, Moses, and Miriam all had the same mother and father. So which did it come through the mom or the father? It doesn't matter. They all had the same, all three of them, the siblings had the same mother and father. Do we see that? That's the point of me showing you that verse. Whether, like I said, whether it come through the maternal line or the paternal line, mother line, father line, doesn't matter. That has no bearing on this. The simple point of that verse is to show that the three siblings, Aaron, Moses, and Miriam, all had both the same mother and the same father. Correct? Okay. Now, with that said, where's the other verse? Just follow my chain of logic. I'm trying to lay this out so it'll make sense. Hopefully I'm putting all this stuff. Okay. Like I said, Miriam, which she has no bearing in this, that the verse just mentioned her. But we're talking about Aaron and Moses were brothers from the same mother and father. Correct? Okay. So let's go look at Exodus chapter 4 and verse 14. And let's notice something. Again, from the King James. Exodus 4:14 from the King James. It says, and the anger of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh was kindled against Moses. And he said, is not Aaron the Levite thy brother? I know that he can speak well, and also, behold, he cometh forth to meet thee, and when he seeth thee, he will be glad in his heart. Okay, let's go back and read that again. Anger was kindled against Moses, and he said, meaning the Most High said, is not Aaron the Levite thy brother? Okay. Aaron was a Levite. He's the brother of Moses. And they are both from the same mother and father. Which in the verse we read in Numbers, it says that they were in Levi. They were descendants of Levi. And this verse right here says that Aaron and Moses, says Aaron is a Levi, and he's the brother of Moses. We read in that other verse that they're both descended from the same parent. So guess what? That makes Moses a Levite. A Levite. He's not a Jew. People want to retrograde that back into that he was Jew. No, it says he was a Levite. You have to piece it together, though, like I said. It's a jigsaw puzzle. Right? So Moses was a Levite. Right? Okay. So back to what I was saying. The Torah, the law, the instructions were technically given to a Levite. Think about that. Just think about that. Now, like I said, you go read it in the text. I'm not going to show you this part. I mean, it's in there though. But it's the Most High spoke to Moses and said, speak to the children of Israel and command them this. Basically, the law was given to Moses, and then Moses disseminated. He taught it to all the children of Israel. Right? Yes, the law was given to Israel, but technically it was actually given to a Moses who was a Levite, not a Jew. So this whole idea of, oh, that was for the Jews, not really. It was given to Moses, who was a Levite, not a Jew. Oh, but he was, no. Let's not read into the text what we think it says. Read what it said. Moses was a Levite. We see that? Okay. Now, hang on to that thought. I'm going to go and we're going to read something else. Just kind of along these lines, I'm going to show you something else. Let me see. Which verse am I going to here? Hang on. That one's there, and then this one. Okay. We're gonna go back to Exodus chapter 2, and I'm gonna show you something. We've established that Moses was a Levite, correct? Just keep that in your mind. Okay, now. Okay, now I'm going to read this. I'm going to read from Exodus chapter 2, verse 1, all the way down to verse 10. Just so we see this all in context. And I'm not going to expound on any of this, except for I'm going to point out a couple of things that this part of the text says. Okay? Remember, we're talking about the identity of Moses right this second. Exodus chapter 2 and verse 1 from the King James, it says this. And there went a man of the house of Levi. Okay, so we're talking about somebody who was a Levite, right? Okay, we don't know who we're talking about, but we know he's a Levite. Okay, it says, and took a wife, a daughter of Levi. A daughter of Levi, meaning not necessarily a direct daughter, but a descendant of Levi, right? Okay, verse 2. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. Let me bring the text up so you can see it. Sorry about that. I got two monitors and screens and all this, and it gets confusing sometimes. I apologize. I'll start back over. Exodus chapter 2 and verse 1, it says, and there went a man of the house of Levi and took a wife, a daughter of Levi. So what does that say right there? It says there's a man who was a Levite and took a wife, which was a daughter of the Levite. So basically what it's saying is this man and this woman were both from the tribe of Levi. And they got married. We see that? That's what I want you to see. Man, woman, both Levites get married. They married within their tribe, which they kind of were supposed to do. All right, then it goes on. It says this in verse 2. And I'm going to read this rather quickly because I want to get down to verse 10. It says, and the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him, that he was a godly child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes and daubed it with slime and with pitch and put the child therein and laid it in the flags by the river banks. Okay, just for the context for those, this was after Moses, or not Moses, Pharaoh gave the order to kill all the Hebrew children, all the babies, all the male babies, all the babies, basically, right? Okay, and this is what's telling us. This is talking about the birth of Moses. That's who it's talking about. We'll see that in the end verse where I actually go in. But what it's talking about is Moses. This is the parents of Moses, who were both Levites. We established his brother Aaron was a Levite. And that makes Moses a Levite. And we'll see here, because both his parents were Levites and he was conceived from them and born through them, he was a Levite also. But let's just keep reading. You see what I'm saying? I'm just showing you scriptures that back up Moses was a Levite. Right? That's where we're going with this. Anyway. But like I said, this is after Pharaoh issued the order to kill all the babies. And this is why she's hiding him in a little thing. We all know this story. We learned this story in Sunday school. All right? But did we learn the details? That's the real question. What the text actually says. Okay. Verse 4. And his sister stood afar off, to wit, what would be done with him. Verse 5. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. Flags, plants, cat tails, whatever. You see what I'm saying? That's what it's basically talking about. Verse 6. And when she had opened, who is she? The Pharaoh's daughter, right? That Pharaoh's daughter would be the antecedent of this she right here. There's that term, antecedent again. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children. We catch that? Moses was a Levite, but it says here he was a Hebrew. I'll come back to that. Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew woman, that she may nurse the child for thee? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. And the maid went and called the child's mother. The lady that nursed Moses, Moses' mother put him in a little basket and sent him down the Nile River. Sent him down the river. Moses was found by the Pharaoh's daughter. Pharaoh's daughter sent for a Hebrew woman to come and nurse the baby. And that nurse just happened to be Moses' mother. If you ain't never caught that, that's definitely the hand of the Most High. Praise the Most High. Okay. And verse 9. Exodus 2, verse 9. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, who? The mother of the child that's nursing the child. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages. And the woman took the child and nursed it. Okay, let's just stop. Think about that. This lady, to protect her child, put it in a basket and sent it down the river. This lady was a Levite. The child, Moses, was found by Pharaoh's daughter. Pharaoh's daughter sent for a Hebrew to nurse the child. The lady that they ended up getting was actually the child's mother. And then Pharaoh's daughter said, I'll pay you to nurse this child for me. So what do we get from all this? Moses' mother is performing her maternal duties. She is breastfeeding her child. She is nursing her own child. But the hand of the Most High is all up in this, and she's getting paid to do it. Her child's being protected, and she's getting paid to nurse her own child. Think about that. Woo! That's my See what I'm saying? Anyway, I just had to point that out. That has nothing to do with where I'm going, but I had to point that out because that's praiseworthy right there. Anyway, okay, verse 10. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son, and she called his name Moses. And she said, because I drew him out of the water. Now let's read verse 11 here, just because of what it says. And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went unto his brethren, and looked on their burdens, and he spied an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew, one of his brethren. So basically, one of Moses' brethren was a Hebrew. And we've already established back up here that Moses was a Hebrew, and he was also a Levite. We catch that. The little details we're putting together here. Moses was a Levite. We learned that from both his parents were Levites. His brother was a Levite, therefore he's a Levite. You see what I'm saying? No matter which angle you come at it, Moses was a Levite. But it also says here in Exodus chapter 2 that it was a Hebrew. Point is this. All Levites were Hebrews, but not all Hebrews were Levites. Just same too, all Gadites are Hebrews, but not all Hebrew are Gadites. Levite is a tribal identity. Gadite is a tribal identity. Benjamin is a tribal identity. Jew is also a tribal identity. I will get there in a minute. Just trust me. But do we see what I'm saying? Okay, now with all that said, we've established that Moses was both a Hebrew and a Levite. And like I said, the law was technically given to Moses, who was a Levite. And then he disseminated it out to the children of Israel. Okay? Do we get all that? Okay, I know I've been talking for a while, and I'm going to wrap this up. I gave you all the text, the scripture first, to show you all this. So, like I said, back to those who may think that the law, the Torah, the instructions was given to the Jews. I showed you that it was actually given to Moses, and that Moses was a Levite and also a Hebrew. He was not a Jew. Do we see that? The text doesn't say he was a Jew. It says he was a Levite and he was a Hebrew. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, as for what the text says about Jews, there's no way. The only way I know to show you this, and I've said this, and I've said this, and I've said this. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to listen to my voice, and I'm going to show this. I'm going to do this, and I've said this in quite a few of my past videos. Go look this up. Go look this up. Go look this up. Many of you probably have. Some of you probably haven't. But this is for that person out there who's saying the law was for the Jews. Okay? All right. Would we not agree that whether the law always was and was simply given to and written down by Moses, or if the law came into existence, whatever, wasn't, it only came into effect when it was given to Moses. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Let's not get hung up on those details, whether the law always was and was written down by Moses, or the law only came into effect when it was given to Moses. Doesn't matter. We've established that it was given to Moses. And when did that take place? In the book of Exodus in 19, the law was given to Moses, a Levite, technically in Exodus 19 and 20, and following all the way through the rest of the Torah. Correct? Okay. So, with that said, let's do this. I've said this before. Let's pull it up on the screen, hear what I'm saying, and watch what I'm doing. We're going to transition back. Okay, we're going to be, you may not be able to see this very well, but I'll explain to you what I'm going to do. Over here, little binoculars. I can hit this button. It comes up right here. It says search Bible, and it's going to search through the King James Version of the Bible. Why? Because that's the version we were reading from. I'm going to blow this up so it'll make it as big as possible. But you see right up here, it says King KJV. That's the version of the Bible we're going to look in. We catch that. Okay, now, I'm going to go over here to this. Now, this is, I can keep it where it says Bible. That means it's going to search through the entire Bible for whatever I tell it to search for. But I don't want to search through the entire Bible. I'm going to simply search in the Torah itself. Like I said, Torah was given by Most High to Moses. He wrote it down starting in Exodus 19. Whether it has always been or not, there's no bearing of that on this matter. Okay? The law, Moses wrote it down, Mount Sinai, Exodus 19, through the rest of the Torah. And the Torah would be what some would know as the Pentateuch, meaning the first 5 books. The books of Moses, the law of Moses, that's a misnomer because it's not the law of Moses. He didn't make it up. He simply wrote it down. The Most High made it and dictated it to Moses to write down. You see what I'm saying? So to say the law of Moses is kind of misleading because it's called the law of Moses because Moses wrote it down, not because Moses invented it or created it or was the author of it. Does that make sense? Okay. Look, the Pentateuch, which is the first 5 books of the Bible. If you can see right there where my mouse is, it says Pentateuch, the Torah, the instructions. It says Genesis to Deuteronomy. That's what I'm going to click on because that's where we're going to look. Okay. Now, let's type in right here the word J-E-W. Wait a minute. Let me spell it correctly. Jew. J-E-W. Now I'm going to hit this little button over here and we're going to see how many times that word Jew is used within the first 5 books of the Bible. You notice right down here at the bottom of the page it says 0 verses found. What that tells us is the word Jew is not found anywhere within the Torah, the law, the Pentateuch, the first 5 books. It's not there. Why? Because this idea that the law was given to the Jews is not correct. The law was given to a Levite, and he disseminated it unto the children of Israel. Doesn't have the word Jew. Okay, now, just to be thorough, let's add an S to that. Jews, J-E-W-S. Now, let's search that. Within the same parameters, within the first 5 books, we're looking for the word Jews, J-E-W-S. Let's see, right here. Bam! It also comes up 0 verses found. So, with that said, if I can get... Here, let's transition back to my face. Okay, there we go. The point is this. The law was not given to the Jews. Many wrongly hold to this false idea, this false belief that the law was given to the Jews. That's for the Jews. That's for the Jews. I hear that so often, and I know many of y'all watching this video hear that, but that's not the case. The law was not given to the Jews. If you want to be technical, the law was given to Moses, who was a Levite, and he was supposed to teach the children of Israel, which kind of is a precedence. That begins a precedence. Because if you read through the Torah, you will learn that it is the Levitical priesthood, or the priests, the Levites, who were to be the teachers and judges of the law. They're the ones that were supposed to teach the people. Through the generations, it was the responsibility of the Levites, the priests, to teach the people and to also be the judges when it came to matters of Torah. You see what I'm saying? Not the Jews, the Levites. Now, the Levites were one tribe of the quote-unquote 12 tribes of Israel. And like I said, Ephraim, Benjamin, Dan, Gad, Nebulun, Naphtali, Judah. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't just the Jews. The Jews are Judah, the tribe of Judah, originally. And I'm going to show you something. Now, to get this from the text, you got to do a whole lot of digging. But I'm simply going to go to a website that says it. Now, I don't agree with everything that says, but they state this rather clearly. And I'm going to read all this. And like I said, I've said this before. This is a quote-unquote touchy subject. There are people that will disagree vehemently with what I'm going to say. And they'll want to say, well, that's anti-Semitic. Okay? If what I'm about to show you is anti-Semitic, take it up with the website I'm going to show you, which is kind of ironic because it's a Jewish website. Hence why I'm going to use it as a source. The Virtual Jewish Library.org. Subject, who is a Jew? I'm going to show you the website. I'm going to read this. Let me bring this up on the screen. I mean, the article, I'm going to show you the top of it here. Yeah. Let's just transition over and I'll show you so you can see this. Like I said, don't call me anti-Semitic because I point this out. I'm getting my source is a Jewish website. So to call me anti-Semitic because of the information I'm about to show you, you're in fact calling Jewish people anti-Semitic, which is kind of an oxymoronic term. Makes sense? Anyway, that's why I so often when I want to show something like this, that's a touchy subject, I get it from a Jewish source. Why? So nobody can call me anti-Semitic. I'm simply showing you what they've wrote. All right? Well, let's go to it. Like I said, we'll bring this up, and this is the last thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to be done. So you can see this. JewishVirtualLibrary.org/who is a Jew. Like it says, Judaism, who is a Jew. You can go to their website. It's JewishVirtualLibrary.org. No spaces, no dashes, no hyphens, no nothing. JewishVirtualLibrary.org. And you can go up there in a little search window. You could type in who is a Jew, and it will spit this out. And you can read this. Now, I'm not going to read all this because you see the little scroll bar here, right here. It can be rather long. I'm not going to read all this. I'm going to just read the pertinent material of this, okay? First off, it's talking about Judaism. Judaism, I'm going to just go ahead and say it. Judaism is a man-made religion. Judaism is not the religion of the Old Testament, like some so wrongly believe. All right? We're not going to go down that road, though. But let's just go to right here, to this where it says, origins of the word Jew and Judaism. Now, let's see. Let me see. Hang on a second. Yeah, I think everybody can see that. I'm going to just read this kind of quickly, and we're gonna look at this. All right? Now, hear carefully what it says. Now, remember, everything I've showed you from the text thus far, that's truth. Now, we got to wade through, we got to discern through some of the stuff that's here that not necessarily is true. Okay? But it says, origin of the word Jew and Judaism. This is the original name for the people we now call Jews was Hebrews. Yeah, was it? The word Hebrew, in Hebrew, ivory, is first used in the Torah to describe Abram. Genesis 14:13, that's the verse I showed you. The word is apparently derived from the name of Eber, one of Abraham's ancestors. Another tradition teaches that the word comes from the word Aver. I don't know how you say these words, so I apologize, which means the other side, referring to the fact that Abraham came from the other side of the Euphrates, are referring to the fact that Abraham was separated from the other nations morally and spiritually. You probably heard this here. A lot of you have probably heard, some of you may have not. Hebrew means to cross over, as in crossed over out of Babylon, crossed over the river Euphrates into the promised land. We get that? That's what a lot of people say. And it's backing that up here. It's just saying that that's potentially where the word comes from, the word Hebrew, the origins of the word. We get that? Okay. But up here where it says the original name for the people we now call Jews was Hebrews. See right here, it's trying to equate Jews as being Hebrews. Well, yeah, I would say that Jews are Hebrews, but not all Hebrews are Jews. But you see how this is kind of not very specific, not very clear? You see how they kind of, if one doesn't know the distinction, the text surely is, this text is surely not showing us. It simply, it leads one to think that all Jews were Hebrews and all Hebrews were Jews. It doesn't make a distinction. That Jew, it goes on to say that, but we'll see that in a second. But see how it's just kind of misleading. Anyway, we'll see here in just a second. This is another name for the people is children of Israel or Israelites, which refers to the fact that the people are descendants of Jacob, who was called Israel. We catch that? The children of Israel, right? Okay, now, here's where it starts to get interesting. It said the word Jew in Hebrew, Yehudi, or Yehuda, Judah. We catch that? The word Jew is derived from the name Judah, which was the name of one of Jacob's 12 sons. Judah was the ancestor of one of the tribes of Israel. One of the tribes of Israel, not all 12. We catch that. Judah was the ancestor, meaning Judah was one of the 12 tribes, which was named after him. Likewise, the word Judaism literally means Judaism. That is the religion of the Yehudim, of the Jews. Yehudim, meaning I am on the end of it makes it plural. Judah, Judaism, Jews, basically, is what it's saying. Okay? Alright. Notice it says that the Jews derived from the name of Judah, which was the name of one of Jacob's 12 sons. Not all of Jacob's sons. All 12. No, just one. Does that make sense? Okay, now, this next one is the most important one. It says originally the term Yehuda, Jew. Didn't we establish up here? Jew in Hebrew, Yehuda. That's what it's saying. Okay? Originally the term Jew refers specifically to members of the tribe of Judah. Wow! Only the tribe of Judah, not all 12 tribes, the children of Israel. And that's from a Jewish website. Think about this. So to say that the children of Israel, which would be all 12 tribes, are Jews is incorrect, even according to this Jewish website. We catch that. Now, it goes on to explain what the term Jew has come to mean, and they're trying to back something. They're backpedaling is what they're doing. Anyway, it says, originally the term Jew referred specifically to members of the tribe of Judah as distinguished from the other tribes of Israel. Catch the distinction. Tribe of Judah, all the other tribes. That tribe of Judah were Jews. All them other tribes, not Jews. If you were from the tribe of Dan, you were Danite. If you were from the tribe of Gad, you were Gadite. Tribe of Ephraim, you were Ephraimite. Tribe of Benjamin, Benjaminite. We catch that. Tribe of Judah, Jew. Yehudi, you were a Jew. Someone from the tribe of Dan is not a Jew. Someone from the tribe of Gad, Ephraim, they're not Jews. Now, Benjamin, there's a caveat, a extenuating circumstance, and it covers that here in just a second if we keep reading. All right, let's read that one more time because you can't stress that part enough. The word Jew. Oh, no, wait a minute. Originally, the term Jew refers specifically to the members of the tribe of Judah, as distinguished from the other tribes of Israel. However, after the death of King Solomon, the nation of Israel was split into two kingdoms: the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of Israel. Two separate nations: Judah, Israel. The text sometimes will say house of Judah or house of Israel. We catch that? Two separate kingdoms, right? After that time, the word Yehudah, Jew, could properly be used to describe anyone from the kingdom of Judah, which included the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Hence, why Paul in the New Testament calls himself a Jew, because he was a Benjaminite from that southern kingdom. So we catch that. As well as settlements from other tribes. The most obvious biblical example of this use is in Esther 2:5, where Mordecai is referred to as both a Yehudi and a member of the tribe of Benjamin. Yes, that's there. I agree. Paul also makes that same connection. He was a Benjamite, but he was also a Jew. Okay, let's just keep reading this and we'll be done here in just a second. Approximately 722 BC, the kingdom of Israel was conquered by Assyria. and the 10 tribes were exiled from the land, which left only the tribes in Judah's kingdom. That would be the kingdom of Judah, the house of Judah, right? The northern kingdom, the kingdom of Israel, the house of Israel, was conquered and scattered, exiled out of the land by the Assyrian Empire in 722. The 10 lost tribes, we've heard them referred to as that. Okay, he says, which left? But because of that, the only ones that were left were the tribes in Judah's kingdom, the kingdom of Judah, the house of Judah, which who did we already establish? Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, according to this. All right, he says, they were left Judah's kingdom to carry on Abraham's heritage. The people of Judah's kingdom called themselves and were known to other nations as Yehudim, Jews, a name still used today. Okay, now, this is where some backpedaling comes in. All right? In common speech, the word Jew is used to refer to all of the physical and spiritual descendants of Jacob, Israel, as well as the patriarchs Abraham and Isaac, and their wives. And the word Judaism was referred. Okay, I'm not going to read the rest of it. What did the text say that Abraham was? See, here they're trying to say that Abraham and Isaac and Jacob are all Jews. That's what they're trying to say here. They're trying to retrograde. They're trying to retrograde that term Jew back into the text and say that Abraham and all these people were Jews. Well, what did we see in the text? The text said that Abraham was a Hebrew. Jacob, from whom the 12 tribes descended, had not been born yet. So Abraham had no tribal identity. The tribes weren't even existent when Abraham walked the earth. Abraham was simply a Hebrew. His descendants were Hebrews. When we get to Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, and his 12 sons who became the 12 tribes. You see what I'm saying? And that one tribe of Judah was the Jews. Upon the split of the kingdom, the southern kingdom of the house of Judah, or the kingdom of Judah, and the northern kingdom of the house of Israel. Right? Jew, like we read on that page, Jew originally referred to one from the tribe of Judah. It came to mean one from the southern kingdom of Judah, which included not only Judah, but also Benjamin and Levi. according to this page. Okay? That is biblically true, though. All right? But you see what I'm saying? You can't take the term Jew that refers to one from that southern kingdom of Judah and or the tribe of Judah specifically and retrograde it back into the past and try to apply it to Abram or Abraham, who was a Hebrew. He was a Jew. No, he was not a Jew. He was a Hebrew. Because Israel, Jacob, hadn't even been born yet. That's like, my name is Stephen. Let's use this. I'm a Stephenite. And all my descendants will be Stephenites. But my dad, his name was Carey. He cannot be a Stephenite. Why? Because he is my ancestor, not my descendant. You can't retrograde my Stephenite identity back into the past of my ancestors. But so many people want to do that. They do it directly, indirectly, and people just assume because they've never looked any of this stuff up that, they're all Jews. No, they're not. They're all Hebrews, or they're all Israelites. That term refers to the whole kingdom of Israel, all 12 tribes before the split. But upon the split, Jew came to mean anyone from that southern kingdom. Okay, now, with that said, I'm going to throw this last little bit in here, and I'm going to be done. I know I've been talking a while. A lot of the confusion, I think, now this is my opinion right here. I think a lot of the people that are confused who want to say, well, that was for the Jews, is because they don't actually read and or study in depth their Old Testament. And they don't know this information. It's not that they're stupid. It's that they're simply ignorant because they never looked into it. And I get it. I used to be this way until I started digging and looking for this stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, so it wasn't for the Jews. Nope, it was for Israel. The Torah given by the Most High to a Levite to disseminate to all 12 tribes, not just one tribe, Jews, of the Jews. Do you see what I'm saying? But people don't read the text. And there's this mindset, like I said, that that's all for the Jews. And I think it stems from the fact that when people read the New Testament, which sadly, people base their entire theological framework off of what they read in the New Testament. They don't have any context of the Old Testament, and this is a perfect example. But all through the New Testament, you see Jews, especially in the book of John. Jews, the Jews, the Jews. Now, it mentions some of the other tribes, don't get me wrong, Simeon, Asher, I know Benjamin, and I know it mentions some of these other tribes, because they weren't all, the 10 lost tribes, weren't all completely lost. But at the time that the New Testament took place and Yeshua, our Messiah, walked the earth, the majority of the people that were in the land were Jews. They were the remnant of the southern kingdom of Judah that was exiled into Babylon in 586 BC? And they spent 70 years. But they eventually came back into the land, rebuilt the temple. And those were the people that were there at the time our Master, our Messiah, our Mashiach, Yeshua walked the earth. It was the Jews, for the most part. And you see that term all through the New Testament. And people have no context of what the Old Testament says, so they just assume and they retrograde, oh yeah, that was for the Jews. Does that make sense? They want to take that term because they don't understand what it actually means and retrograde it back into the text because they don't have the context of the Old Testament. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. I know I've been talking for a while, but I've had people been asking me about this. They've been wanting me to talk about this subject, and I thought I'd finally do it. And hopefully I presented this in a way different than you've heard before. A lot of you have heard bits and pieces of this information, but I don't think you may. Hopefully I presented it in a way, a fresh way, that you hadn't heard it before, that made it interesting to you. Okay, but that's my whole point. There are some, like I say, there are some that try to retrograde this term Jew or Jewish or Jews, however you want to say, back into the Old Testament and make it apply to people and or people groups that it does not apply to. And some do it for whatever reason. I'm not going to speak to the reason they do it. But most do it out of simple ignorance, because they don't have the context of the Old Testament. They simply read the New Testament and they see this Jew. They say Jew and Gentile, and in their minds, it's all Jew. Well, no. No. A Jew is just one of the 12 tribes of the greater, or just one of the 12 tribes. But it came to refer to one from that southern kingdom. Now, I can show you that in the text, but this video is already really long. But go dig into it. Realize there's a difference between an Israelite and a Jew, or the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah. The house of Israel, the house of Judah. Two separate things. Keep this in mind. We have to remember, once the kingdom of Israel, all 12 tribes, split and became, or split, northern and southern kingdom, you have to keep that in mind, in the forefront of your mind, when you sit down and read the text. And it has to carry through unto the New Testament. But like I said, most people don't read and or have the context of the Old Testament to apply to the New Testament, because they don't read it. They've unhitched themselves from it. But I encourage every one of you, go back and read that Old Testament and look for these things. Go verify what I'm telling you, Go look into this stuff and you'll see it's there. But it's like a jigsaw puzzle. There's pieces of it everywhere. And hey, I'll be honest with you. I don't have every piece of the puzzle. When I open the box up, my puzzle's missing some pieces, meaning I don't have them. They're there. I just don't know where they are. You know what I'm saying? But I've got enough pieces of the puzzle put together that I see this picture. All Jews were Israelites, but not all Israelites were Jews. The law was given to a Levite. Like I said, technically it was given to a Levite, and he was to disseminate, teach the law to all of the children of Israel. Do we get that? Go look that up. Go, like I said, the word Jew or Jews is not in the Torah. Go look through the Torah and see. Look for this. Look for the term children of Israel. Look for that phrase within the Torah. And you'll see over and over and over and over. All you do is just start reading it and you'll see it. It's everywhere. You'll see. This is the Most High spoke to Moses and said, speak to the children of Israel. Command the children of Israel. And to do this or not to do this. But you'll see it says the children of Israel. But now that we understand the children of Israel are not the Jews. Jews are part of the children of Israel, but not all children of Israel are Jews. So to say that was for the Jews is biblically incorrect. It was for the children of Israel. Now, the $64,000 tidbit fact. when you realize that the Torah was given to the children of Israel, then go read Ephesians chapter 2, where it says you are not a Gentile, but now part of the commonwealth of Israel. And then go read Romans chapter 11, where it says the wild olive branch, Gentile, is grafted into the cultivated olive tree, which is Israel. So there's this concept of I'm a Gentile and that's for the Jews is false. First off, the law was not given to the Jews, it was given to Israel. And upon your confession of faith, you become grafted into Israel. And guess what? That Torah, that law applies to you. It's there. It's all in the text. But because people are ignorant, they just don't know. Whether they've been taught wrong, they come to believe this information wrong, they assume, they make assumptions about the text and the meanings and all this. And it's not all true. But anyway, like I said, I've been talking for a while. So I encourage you, go back and read the Old Testament. Notice these things. Look for these things that I've talked about in this video. And you will see it. Now that I've pointed it out to you, it will begin to jump off the page at you. You will begin to see this stuff. And you will gather your pieces of this great puzzle and start putting them in there. And if you got some pieces that I missed, did you think that that would be good for me to know? Like I said, I don't have all the pieces. Comment below. Give me some pieces in the comments. Vote. Like I said, we're going to go back. Micah or 2nd Chronicles. Vote in the comment section below. But also give me some pieces. Give me some more pieces for this greater puzzle of Israel and the identity and all that. Does that make sense? But I'll be done. With that, I'm going to be done. I'm going to say shalom, shalom. And as I always say, don't just read this thing, but study it.